This is a hollow cast toy soldier made for children of the U.S. World War II infantry by W. Britton's, a British company. They made hundreds of thousands of hollow cast toy soldiers for over 100 years. This is a solid, modern military miniature for adults of a U.S. World War II airborne infantryman by W. Britton's, an American company. They are made in smaller amounts and collected all over the world. So how does a company go from this to this? Today we'll meet the key figure that has guided most of this change. Hear his background and what makes the modern W. Britton so unique. Today on Collector Guys.
Collector Guys.
Hi, my name's Ken Osen. I'm the current president of the William Britton's Toy and Model Figure Company. The company is in its 129th year. It's had several owners over the century or so, but it's now an American company based in Chillicothe, Ohio.
And how did you personally get involved in producing toy soldiers?
Yes, well, that's an odd and long story, but my uncle collected every kind of toy soldier imagined. So this is the late 1960s, and in those days families would get together for card playing on Saturdays, and I'd go over there bored to tears, but I'd sit at the end of the corridor looking at his china cabinet full of toy soldiers. And I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and he gets up and he sees me kneeling in front of his bureau cabinet and goes, "Kenny, would you like to hold one?" And he opened up the door and he handed me a guardsman. It was like, "Hey kid, you want a cigarette?" And I was hooked. And after that, every Christmas or good report card, he'd make sure I got toy soldiers and taught me how to paint, and it stuck. I never really left the hobby of collecting. In the 1960s, most of the neighbors and relatives had World War II vets or Korean War vets. I was also the kid to give stuff to that no one else wanted, whether it's pilot wings or some German souvenir helmet. I got it. So my interest in military history stuck. I went on and became a police officer for a short period of time in law enforcement. That was a really great experience. And then I moved into, ironically, fixed prosthetics, dental technician. So 11 years of that. And I was always doing museum exhibits, details for friends that were museum professionals. They said, "Hey, hang out a shingle." So I did for museum exhibit models specifically, and I was the go-to guy for military subjects because it was my passion. And I got a phone call from a couple fellows saying, "Hey, would you do toy soldiers?" I said, "No." And they'd call again and said, "No." There's one really persistent individual that was a school teacher in Illinois. And finally, to make him go away, I said, "I'll sculpt you some figures." And that was Ron Barzos. And did an incredible number of figures and introduced them to urethane foam for buildings and accessories, which is all just part of the hobby today. But I also found out that doing toy soldiers professionally was easier than museum exhibit work, with the meetings and the research, the bureaucracy, and the feast or famine aspect. So I got another phone call, this time from someone from the William Britton's Toy Soldier Company. So we're going back to 1997, as I recall, and it was a phone call I got on my old school, answering machine that said, "This is Richard Walker, the William Britton's Toy Soldier Company. Would you call us back?" And I thought, yeah, I don't think so. So I didn't. I was busy doing other things, my medieval building lines and other things that I was interested in. And I got another phone call late at night. It said, "Oh, this is Richard Walker from William Britton's. Is Ken Osen there?" I said, "Oh, it's Ken." And, "Well, would you be interested in sculpting for Britton's?" I said, "No, I don't think so." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, my uncle had those. They were great. But I like more realistic things. And traditional gloss figures, there's lots of folks, especially in the Chicago club, that would love to sculpt for Britton's." Well, we already talked to them. We talked to Shep Payne, and he said, "You should call Ken." "Well, I just don't know." He says, "Well, we just commissioned a pretty well-known artist, and he does Civil War paintings, and we'd like someone to sculpt figures based on his art." I said, "Well, who is it?" "Well, his name is Don Troiani." I said, "Oh, I know Don." well, what do you mean you know Don? He says, oh, I know Don. So what paintings? I said, well, Clear the Way and Lone Star. I said, okay. And that's how I got into the business. You know, one was plastic figures to help someone and launch his business and kind of go on his way and leave me alone. And the other one was because I knew Don and I loved his art. The rest is kind of history. You know, I just started doing more and more. I still do museum exhibit work occasionally, and I love it because I love working with anthropologists, archaeologists, curators, staff members. And that's a tool to educate the public. And I just love the idea of reaching out to young people in particular to give them a window into the past so they understand where we came from and how we became who we are. But the collectibles industry is almost more rewarding. I think the individual collectors, each one has their own prism through which they see history, whether it's genealogy, family member that served, they're an immigrant, they came from another place, or they're just fascinated, an armchair historian. And those people are a joy to talk to and to interact with and to share with, in that they bring things to us as much as we deliver to them. Doing historical miniatures is a chase. It's almost like a forensic reconstruction. You're at a murder scene. What happened here? You know, who are the players? It's the same thing. You think we know what Vikings look like? Well, we don't, and we still don't. We may never. A World War II GI, what a guy will tell you he remembered wearing versus a photograph of what he was wearing can often be two different things. So everything we do takes a great deal of research, sometimes hands-on with real artifacts, second guessing, but we like to try to do something that satisfies both the collector of a miniature and the armchair historian and the person trying to have a link to the past, which is a change for Britons, because Britons was a classic toy. And it was meant to be a toy. It was representational. Things have changed for adult collectors. The internet, specialty publications, great museums with open storage. People see what things look like. They have great questions. The internet allows us to talk to someone halfway across the world about something they're just as passionate about. And that has been a tool that, me being an old school guy, took a long time to embrace. I still love archival work, hands-on research, looking at manuscripts, old drill manuals, but the internet's a great place. Like, I just don't know. What do you think? And you put the question out. And you may get someone who's just totally off base, and you get 4 other people that are bang on. It's always been a growth experience dealing with lots of different personalities and ideas. I have some good friends that I've known since I was a teenager that have a real solid idea what they think a toy soldier should be. It's a philosophical view. It should be glossy, it should be 54 millimeters, maybe even a riveted arm on it, representing mostly empire period, high empire of the British Empire. And there's that view. And then there's the others that want to know, what does a war elephant look like? What did a common infantryman wear in Desert Storm? All those details. 2 extremes. So for us to look at the Britons that I was privileged to work with, actually now in retrospect, and introduce to that and make that transition from a glossy traditional soldier, a representation of a uniform, to a highly detailed piece, was something that was necessary to survive, in my opinion, for the collector's market. Now, I think the toy market has also really become far more sophisticated. With the internet, young people have so many great visual representations and 3D digital reconstructions. The young people that I meet that do World War II video games are way more informed than I was at their age. You know, I'll have some 10-year-old come up and he'll say, "Oh, is that a Sturmgewehr?" And I'm going, I couldn't even pronounce that at his age. And they know it through their video games. So that challenge was to bring Britons into sort of relevance that would resonate and move on. And I'm gifted with the staff that I have. I've got great people I work with. They love history. They're passionate. They're talented. Not just our sculptors in-house and our designers in-house, but also the people we work with as outside contractors. Very select group. We all speak the same language. We all have the same passion.